Hi everyone, welcome and thank you so much for having me today. A little intro to myself. I'm Catherine Squibb, one of the HR advisors at read.co.uk and the Read Group. I've worked for Read for about 3 years on the graduate scheme, just having finished it. Started off in recruitment, so I know your life very well, and then moved into internal HR and got the lucky task of trying to develop our inclusion strategy. So I must say now, I don't have all the answers on this, but I can definitely give you some insights into what we've done and also some of the information we've got from insights at read.co.uk and a research piece we've been doing recently. So our presentation today is going to cover 3 areas. So insights from a survey of UK workers on the importance of diversity. Number 2, 6 key takeaways on how to make your recruitment process more inclusive. And then lastly, a little bit on what Read's journey has been so far, just for sort of a wider insight for you. So, to start with, we all know how important inclusion and diversity is, first and foremost. So we wanted to gain insights from the people who use our website and our candidates that we can supply to a multitude of businesses. So we surveyed over 1,300 UK workers, and here is what we found. The first set of results have highlighted the challenges that UK workers face at the moment and then their employers face as well. 54% of UK workers feel a lack of belonging in their current employment. Personally, I was quite shocked because we, at the moment, spend half our lives essentially at work. And a hypothesis we have at Read is that if you have happy staff, both in work and outside of work, you'll have more productive work and more productive staff and therefore a more successful business. And also, if they don't feel like they belong, are they going to stay for a long time? And retention costs a huge amount for businesses, with senior executive turnover costing almost like double the remuneration package they have. So really, really key for us to look into something like this. Only half of UK workers feel able to express themselves freely at work. Does this surprise you? I was quite shocked. Half. If you're not able to express yourself freely at work, are you going to be able to be truly innovative? Are we subduing that? And will that actually subdue the success and growth of our own businesses that we work for? This actually made me consider reviewing our perks and benefits internally, as, for example, things like flexible working and dress code. Though they seem really small, actually they can allow someone to be themselves and be creative and let their true selves out. And actually, maybe that can help them be more innovative and creative within the workplace. 40% of UK workers have felt discriminated against in the workplace. I found this quite startling, actually, and thought we really need to consider potentially reviewing how our managers are handling discrimination cases and whether we are able to spot things better with a bit more education and a bit more awareness. But no, this was quite surprising. And respondents said they experienced the following types of discrimination: not being given equal opportunities, not receiving fair pay, not able to express their ideas and opinions openly, and being excluded from certain meetings and projects. I often feel that people will feel this way due to a multitude of reasons that have added up, whether someone have made the offhand comment or what we class as banter in the workplace, or they deem their manager to not like them because they only work 4 days a week instead of 5. And therefore it can add up to these things. And actually, are we aware that these things are going on in our workplace? Do we need more transparent policies? Do we need to be more open and honest in communication and have fair pay reviews that are explicit and very visible for all our employees? 43% of UK workers feel discrimination claims at work have been left unresolved. It's interesting, this one, because why is this? Are we not doing enough? Are we avoiding those difficult conversations? Our second set of results have highlighted that candidates really do care about inclusion in the workplace, which is why we as internal recruiters really have to also care too. 95% of respondents felt that it's important to promote diversity at work. And personally, from the research I've been doing and all these types of conferences I've gone to on inclusion, I think this is only going to rise, especially with the millennial generations coming through our workforce. I just think this can only increase. And 80% of our respondents felt that their cultures, genders and backgrounds are respected at work. Obviously, this is in quite stark contrast to the previous insights. So I was quite surprised, and the only thing I could think again was that this could also be doing that we've got a more diverse workforce in general in Britain and internationally, with having different ages, generations, races, all working together. We actually might be building a better culture in the UK, which I think is a really positive thing. Our third and last set of insights came to us, and we thought they highlighted the commitment that we need to show our commitment through more communication in the workplace. As we all know we're doing something for inclusion internally, but actually, how are we communicating this and are we doing it enough? 2/3 of UK workers feel their current employer fails to promote inclusivity. This made me think it could be due to a lack of visibility, and I'll come on to it a bit later, but actually having senior buy-in and senior direction and communication on this could really help raise the profile of what you're doing internally, and actually also talking cross-functionally. Only 1/3 of UK workers are confident their employer provides diversity training, which I bet if I asked you to raise your hand if you had some sort of diversity training in your organisation right now, I bet I'd see a huge show of hands, because most of us do have some form of diversity training. But how out there is it? Are we promoting it internally? Are we asking new starters to do it on induction? Are we informing people that it's available when they start, when they're going through the onboarding process that some people within this room will definitely manage? This is definitely something we can look into and potentially as a comms issue. Respondents recommended the following initiatives to employers looking to promote inclusion in the workplace. Number 1, diversity training for all, as previously mentioned. Involvement in inclusion activities, and this can come from a range of things, for example, being in the Pride Parade or doing cross-sector employee network groups, all sorts of things. Number 3, active diversity monitoring. This is something quite key that I think people want to make sure if they're giving their information to you when they start or throughout their employment with you, they want to make sure it's being monitored and utilised. Number 4, support for employees with disabilities. And number 5, equal opportunities and unconscious bias training for hiring managers. I hope this has been interesting for you because it's allowed me to actually prioritise what we're doing at the moment and what we have scheduled coming up in our strategy for the next 6 months to a year. And actually, we're already doing some of this stuff, and actually, do we need to raise the profile of it at the moment? So, from all these insights, at read.co.uk, they've produced a white paper on 6 ways to promote inclusivity within your hiring practices, which is available on read.co.uk if you would like to view it. But here are the key high-level stats. Number 1, think inclusivity. Differentiate your business by defining inclusivity. By this, we really mean your inclusive brand. Why is it important to your business? When you're recruiting candidates or when your teams are recruiting new candidates into your business, actually, what are they explaining to them? Are they saying, okay, not only do we have these benefits, but we also do this for inclusion, and it's a real business priority for us at the moment. By talking about it can help us attract people externally, and actually by defining it and differentiating the way you say things and the way you phrase inclusion can really define and show the importance that it has in your business. So, for example, our chairman, when we were creating this commitment, James Reed, we discussed the words diversity and inclusion. Do we want to call it diversity and inclusion? And interestingly, he said to me, Catherine, at the end of the day, all I want is for people to feel welcome and that they belong here, because if they don't, should they really be working for us? And I said, well, there we go. You've answered our question for us. Maybe we shouldn't call it diversity and inclusion. Maybe we should call it inclusion and belonging. And that was sort of how it came about. So we've had to totally change all our marketing material because we now have changed it to inclusion and belonging. But I think it has a real power behind the message of why we've called it inclusion and belonging. And actually it's him driving it, and that commitment is shown through the business. Number 2, celebrate differences. Create a team of innovative people by celebrating diversity. So I know we all talk about culture fit all the time in terms of internal recruitment and within HR, but actually we've decided to sort of ignore culture fit because we want candidates who can challenge us. Also, do the candidates we're bringing in bring us new skills and new thinking into our business? Are they agile? So actually, by building a diverse team, we can actually build a successful and innovative and productive team within our business. So this should only be a good thing for our hiring managers that we're supporting. By way of this, we think if you educate managers, inform them of sort of unconscious bias training, ensure that you've got panel interviews, diverse shortlists, and chase agencies. If you use agencies for diverse shortlists, you can attempt to reduce bias and get a more diverse talent pool for you to choose from. Number 3, an inclusive employer brand. Use internal initiatives to promote your own inclusivity. By investing in inclusion internally, we'll attract talent externally. And it's a really, really good way for your business to be perceived as an employer brand. And actually, it's for the right reasons. Whether you do what Barclays do and sponsor loads of Pride events and have floats and things around, or whether you do something like the BBC, who have a mentoring programme for disabled employees within the BBC, which has reached the press because it's so good and supportive and accessible. All these things can be really, really good and can differentiate you from another employer, especially when we're in a very candidate short market in some cases. Number 4, use a mix of terminology. Language is incredibly powerful, and actually some of the insights that we got from our survey really showed us that, and it can really discourage applicants. So we want to be really careful, not only whether we have a big online website and we need to make sure our website is inclusive of all, or whether it's in your job adverts. The words like rock star or guru or work hard, play hard are sort of a thing of the past now. We can't really say those things, though I have to tell my dad that regularly. And actually, it's going to put people off. At Reed, we now put all our job adverts through biased gender decoders. And actually, we had a really interesting case recently where our graduate team realised that they were recruiting pretty much 90% females. And we were quite surprised that they were recruiting 90% females into our graduate scheme. So they asked me to look into why. And the moment I put their job adverts through a bias decoder, it was something like 50% more attractive to women than it was to men. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but we want it to sort of be an equal split. So we just tried to make sure they were as neutral as possible to attract a wider range of people. Number 5, reasonable adjustments. Consider how interview processes affect an outcome. And I don't just mean in the sort of regulatory sense that the government require of us. I'm talking about how we can allow candidates to shine through the process. This came out a huge amount as well, highlighted in our insights from UK workers. And actually, by reviewing inclusively things like your interview panels, the questions you ask, and the scoring matrices you have are really, really crucial to allowing all different types of candidates to shine through the process that actually could be really, really valuable to you in future. I don't know whether you would agree, but I think we're really, really good at providing reasonable adjustments for people once they start employment. Businesses tend to be great at it, but actually candidates through the process can be really nervous to ask for reasonable adjustments, and it's our job internally during the hiring process to make them feel as comfortable as possible, to allow them to be themselves and be willing to ask. Or there's another method that some people say, always ask twice. So ask on one of your first calls, do you need any reasonable adjustments? And ask on a later call down the line with a candidate, again, just want to check, are you sure you don't want any reasonable adjustments? Because we are really flexible with these things. Because candidates can be worried if they have mental health that you might think that they're going to have extra time off as soon as they start, or if they're dyslexic and they need extra time, that you're going to be incapable of doing work at time. So there's so many worries going through these candidates' head during the stressful process that can be getting a job, that we can make that easier for them. Number 6, test and improve. Inclusive recruitment is ever-changing and never stops evolving. I certainly don't have all the answers, and I'm sure there isn't anyone who does. And it is truly changing. There's no tick box answer, and all our organisations are totally different. So it's what suits your organisation best. We continue to develop our own strategy, and I meet with the head of talent acquisitions every 6 months to review our processes, and then we sort of implement 2 actions each 6 months that we want to add in. And some, for example, we tried the last 6 months we've been trying blind CVs, and found that actually at the moment it's a really lengthy process for our internal recruiters, and we're trying to now look if there's a system that can help us do it for us, / we're asking the people at read.co.uk if they can help us as well. Because actually we want to make this easy and we want to make this as productive as possible, but we also want to make it inclusive. And another point that came out of this was actually using the data on your ATSs that can measure and report from applications to shortlists to hires, actually the diversity through there. Are there any trends? Are people being missed off the list for any reason? Obviously, you'll have to take some sort of equality data at the application stage to get a true trend, but it could be really helpful. Fab. So lastly, a little bit about what Reed have been up to recently. We are very much on a journey, and we're at the start of our journey. But here is a little insight into what we're up to. We actually used 4 key elements to try and ensure that our strategy was the most impactful when designing it. And number 1 was senior level buy-in. By making inclusion a business strategy and not just a HR focus, it really has brought that importance to the forefront of why we're doing it. We use insights such as these, what I've just previously shown, to actually get the buy-in from our senior directors. I attended a board meeting at read.co.uk where I presented to the board and explained on the importance of inclusion, and luckily got their buy-in within minutes, which was fantastic. And actually explaining to them on, I don't know whether any of you have seen, but PwC on one of their really good white papers type things, I've got a pyramid of the importance, what you need to do to create an inclusion strategy. And at the top, it's top level buy-in and commitment from the top. And actually, I think that's been just so important. And it's shown us that using a commercial viewpoint and having the commitment from the senior leadership, we've been able to drive the importance through our organisation really strongly. So these are the 4 things we've sort of focused on. So accountability from the top, alignment to the business strategy, board sponsors, which have been really, really useful to get people understanding that this is a thing and we're doing it, and everyone needs to be bought in, and actually getting that buy-in from the middle management has been really helpful. And senior engagement in inclusion activities such as the steering committee. And what I found really useful is our senior leaders have been cascading information, emails, launches, new initiatives that we're doing down. And I'm sure you'll find in your organisation, if the person at the top sends an email, most people look at it. And actually it's been really good to know, to see the response rate and the kind of engagement in it. Next one, being data-driven We have used diversity data to help form our inclusion strategy. So each company's data will be totally different, and actually it's allowed us to drive our strategy forward and focus on initiatives that we know are sort of critical for our business initially. For example, women in leadership was one for us in our specialist recruitment business, which is a very large recruitment agency. We had a huge proportion of our employees were women. However, a very small proportion of our senior leadership team were women. So we knew that there was a problem. And actually, we've used that data to allow us to now have quarterly events with senior business leaders, female senior business leaders. We have mentoring schemes across the business for women into leadership, and we also have resource pages available for them. And actually, there's a couple of examples online, if anyone wants to grab me afterwards, on how you can use data and really useful tools. So we use our data to do diversity reporting, inclusive recruitment reviews, really crucial for that, policy reviews, and we hold an annual inclusion survey. And our annual inclusion survey actually allows us to show that whether our impact is working or not. And actually that's sort of the final stage every year. Has what we've done made any impact on our co-members? Are we getting the feedback that we know we're doing well? And actually, what is the other feedback that we know we need to improve on? Awareness and education. Build out initiatives to raise awareness of workplace inclusion. We found to drive a culture of workplace inclusion, education was really important. And actually understanding the differences between us allows people to respect them more, and to be open and to be honest and just more communicative together. So we've done quite a few things to raise the profile of inclusion across the business. So we have employee inclusion stories. So we ask co-members who are willing to talk about themselves, what makes them different, why inclusion is important to them, and how, as colleagues, we can support them within the business. How to support your colleagues' blogs. So we've had a couple of really successful ones actually. One for Ramadan, one for hidden illnesses. We've had one for allyship for LGBTs, and they've actually worked really well. And people have really responded to it. And obviously we liaise with people of those protected characteristics across our organisation, mostly the champions, because they can actually help sense check and make sure what we're advising is the best thing possible. And it's really useful. And actually, it's really raised the profile of inclusion in our business. Lastly, interventions is our fourth key step we've taken. By interventions, I'm more talking about pockets where we can improve and adding in sort of focused interventions into those. By reviewing workplace practices with an inclusion lens, we're able to enable change. Whether it's a diversity or an inclusion lens, you're looking at it from a different aspect. You're looking at it from an individual co-member aspect of how could it affect anyone? How is it accessible? Do we have drinks every Friday night, yet 30% of our workforce are Muslim and don't drink and actually feel a bit excluded from those drinks on a Friday night? Do you know what I mean? All those little things that add up, they all add to our workplace culture. And we're slowly trying to work out what we can do to drive change. So these are just some of the interventions we've put in recently. Inclusive leadership training. We've just developed a training that encompasses everything from equal opportunities to how to escalate discrimination, how to have those difficult conversations, and how to manage diverse teams. We're just about to recruit a number of diversity champions that we're going to rotate on a yearly basis, as we are a national business, so little old me can't go everywhere to promote inclusion. And an inclusive workplace guide. This actually came from the apprenticeship levy. I don't know whether anyone has just started getting apprentices in your business, but as part of that we need to create something about a product to allow our apprentices to understand cultural differences, the way of life, and respecting relationships. So actually we're using this as a really good tool to then go out for the rest of the business. And then inclusive recruitment practices. Not only have we got training for our inclusive internal recruitment teams on unconscious bias, we also have one of our talent acquisitions team is one of our diversity champions for LGBT, so she's a really good support to keep on every team meeting that they have, just raise it again and discuss inclusion with them. So, I think that's everything. But yeah, I hope that has given you some insights. And if anyone wants to talk about anything extra later, just let me know.
Thanks, Catherine.
That's fine.
We've got